privilege this morning for me to share God's blessings in my life and to share my testimony with you guys. The Lord has done so much of things over the years for me, I don't even know where to start. So I'm going to just go from the time that I arrived in PE, which is like 4 years this year that I'm here. And I'm going to try to make it as short as possible. And for those of you that, I think everybody knows me now, but I'm Raz, and I'm a mom of 4 kids, a widow of 10 years, and I have 5 grandchildren. And 4 years ago, I arrived here to visit my son and his wife at the time for a holiday over Christmas. And prior to that, I kept on having a dream that I'm living across a river, and there's a canoe and there's 2 palm trees. And I thought, Lord, you're taking me to Cape Town. And it's always been somewhere that I wanted to go. And when I did arrive here, I arrived like at night, and in the morning when I woke up and I looked out the blind, there was the river and there was the palm trees and there was a canoe. And I said, Lord, but I'm here for a visit. And I heard the voice say to me, but you're here to stay. So I had a lot of confused emotions because Josh and I had arrived here for just 2 weeks on holiday. I had a job back in Durban. And that weekend they invited me to go to church with them in Galvandale at Sanctuary House. And I went to church and I met everybody and I sat there, and the apostle said, there's somebody that's sitting here today and they don't know whether they're in the right place, but you're exactly where the Lord wants you to be. And while he started to pray, I had this, I'm not sure of how many of you believes in dreams and visions, but I do, because it's my life's testimony. And so while he was praying, I had this image of this rustic old church kind of environment with lots of kids there, like a little orphanage, and there was like a pond and ducks. There was even a few horses, and I said, Lord, what are you showing me now? And I prayed about it, and I walked out, and then I greeted that apostle of that church, and I said to him, I want to share something with you. And I said, you know, I think that the Lord meant that word about if somebody's not sure whether they're the right place, that it was for me. Because it was a question that I was asking myself. And I said, but while you were praying, it was amazing, because this is what I saw. Now, I've been involved prior to that with kids and with working with them and rehab and things like that. And he said to me, wow, sis, I've just become the project manager of an orphanage. So it's obvious that you're at the right place and that we will talk. And 2 weeks later, I found myself lock, stock, and barrel at the orphanage. I was appointed a job to house sit 14 teenage kids, boys. And I was at this place, and I went there and I said, everything was very, very underprivileged. And Josh was fitted into the same program because he would follow the same things as the rest of the kids. And the Lord worked miraculously with those boys because they were all from the street. And every day we learned something new. But COVID started, and I found I could not stay in that circumstances anymore because of him. So I got out of it, and I got back home to my son. And things were not going so good there, because when I was away, they sort of made plans, and they made plans to change their home situation and move into a 1-room bedroom place. So Josh and I had to apply for something else and try to make a way. And I applied for a job also at another orphanage at a Christian private place in Umhlanga in Durban. And just before Christmas, 5 days before Christmas, we were due to move to this place. And 2 days before my move, they phoned me and they said, I'm so sorry, but we cannot accommodate you and give you this job. At that point, the Eastern Cape was very high on the stacks for the COVID. And they didn't want to risk anything, so they closed that application. I literally, within the 3 days, had no place for Josh and I to sleep. And we knew we had to move. And at that point, I visited this church. I was invited by Maureen, I think her name was, and I came in here. And I remember sitting here and thinking to myself, everything seems so hopeless. And Pastor Harry was saying, you're going to be okay, my dear, but I didn't want to share what I was going through and telling him now, you know. I just said I have a need, and he prayed with me. And I went home, and then I got a call from a lady, and when I got to Swartkops, I started getting involved in the community projects with the children. And we did Christmas hampers and like 2 months before that, I was assisting with it. And there was a lady that I met there, her name was Michelle, and she invited me for coffee. And that morning she said, Roz, I'm thinking about you this morning. Would you like to come and have coffee? And are you ready excited for your trip and things? Now, they all knew that I'm leaving. And she called me to tell me that the DA was so glad of the input that I've given for the works there, that they don't want Josh and I to take a bus. They're going to buy me a flight ticket. At that point, I burst out crying. Because I was excited and I was blessed, but she didn't realize that that fell through. So I went over to her, and she lived just a street away, and I went over to her and I sat down and I spoke to her. She said, you do know that I've only met you once, but you and Josh will not sleep on the street. The Lord loves you guys and He'll provide for you. And she said, you look like very much a lady, but I'm going to take you to the back and I'm going to show you my cabin. It was a little log cabin that was just 8 meters, one room, and it was filled from the floor right up to the ceiling of all kinds of junk. There was furniture, tools, and you name it, and the floor had full of mud. And she said, Roz, this is all I have. I said, I'll take it. But she said, I hope you know that you're going to have to clean the place and move this stuff. I said, I will do it. It took me 1 week on my own to try to carry everything out. I had to host the whole place down. And I went in there, and we had nothing. Josh and I literally moved here with 2 bags of clothing. And there we are at this point, and Michelle, like a little angel, bringing little bits of kettle here and this and that, and we got started. And then I prayed, and the Lord said to me, you got to do this. And He showed me making rotis. And the next morning, I had all but 80 rand in my purse, and I started making rotis. And I sold for over 100 rand on the first day. And that's how I started my little business. And for the next year, Josh got into the community school because I couldn't afford anything else. And Michelle will bring me little hampers of food. And I came into church one Sunday, and I had all but 20 rand in my purse. And it was tiring. And I said to the Lord, I only have this 20 rand. And the Lord said, who do you trust? So I quickly put my head down and I walked out of my seat in shame, and I came and put the 20 rand in the offering basket. And as I left, and I literally did not have bread that night too. I didn't have anything for Josh and I. And Linda, as I walked out, she doesn't know this, but as I walked out of the church, she stopped and she said, Roz, quickly take this 50 rand because you must make me some rotis for the week. And I tell you, I said, the devil is a freaking liar. Yeah. And that was just one of the miracles that God started to perform for us. And it went on, and a year later, I was asked to leave that cabin because they needed to use it again for their storage. And Josh, a month before that, was diagnosed with slow learning in school. And I came to church and I said, Lord, I cannot afford more than 800 rand a month. That's what I was giving this old lady. And I was cooking and trying to take care of her. And things got so hectic that sometimes I'll go over and clean for her. I'm not ashamed to tell you guys that I used to go over to clean for her just for $50. Wash her dishes or make something, just to make sure that Josh and I were okay. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is to show you guys over the last 2 years where God has put us now. And I came to church and I said to myself, Lord, I need a miracle. And Mornay, that did not even know me, I did not even know his name or greeted me, all of a sudden just felt led to come and lay hands and pray. And he picked up, in that prayer, he spoke about my worry for Josh. He spoke about the hardships that I've gone through in life, and he said that trust God, everything is going to be okay. And a few months, just before I was due to leave that place, things got so desperate for me that I thought to myself, now I still haven't found something. And with COVID getting so bad, people were afraid to buy food as well because of the virus, So it was very, very bad for us. And I spoke to a friend of mine who was a pastor in Johannesburg, and he spoke about this place where they were needing help. And he said, send your CV, you've got the recommendations to go to this. It was called the Elizabeth Anna Orphanage, and it was for adults and it was for kids. And he said, Raj, you need to try to go there because they'll accommodate, because Josh and I just needed accommodation. I was not worried really much about the money and the food, but we needed a place to stay, and there was nothing here. There was no one here that could assist me. And I took Josh and I took the savings, and with Michelle, she helped me to get the tickets. And here we were on this 20-hour trip to this orphanage. And when I got there, I said to myself, Lord, what have you done? Because the place was literally red sand, no food, no tea. There was like 102 people on that orphanage, and they had nothing. I remember when they said to me they're going to show me to my room, they brought this pea-stained mattresses that was standing there, and the tears basically filled my eyes when I thought to myself, Lord, what have you brought Josh and I to? And then I went into this little, Josh, of course, was not even bothered. He dropped his shoes, he was on the red stand with the rest of the kids, kicking a ball that was made out of newspaper and plastic. And he was on his way. And I thought to myself, she said to me, they're going to get the room ready. I was waiting in the office and I can lay down because I had a bad headache after all that traveling and I was hungry. And there was nothing there, you know, they didn't even offer you water. So I got into this room and I closed and I lay down and I started to talk to God. And I said, Lord, you know, you say in your word that you do not give us things that we cannot handle. Lord, you say that your plans is to prosper. And I just started to say a whole lot of things. And you know, the most amazing thing is, and I thought to myself, maybe I must, and I bought a return ticket. And I was stuck here for 10 days. And I sat there and the Lord said, be still and know that I am God. Amen. And you know, when I came out of that, they said to me, we've put new mattresses inside there for you and Josh. And I went in there and I started to wipe and to clean up this little place here. And I phoned the pastor of the place and I said, Pastor Timmy, can I please have some tea? He said, I will send you a kettle and some tea bags and some sugar. And they sent me some butter and some milk. Not milk, sorry, there was no milk. Bread, a few slices of bread. And we spent the night, and the next day I asked them for transport. I went into town and I got a few supplies for Josh and I, like noodles. There was no fridge, so it has to be a little bit of things that can last us a little bit. And we stayed there and I took a walk in the morning. And I went around that place and I met all these old people that was living in little rooms. And I tell you guys, of the 102 people on that place, not one person had contacted the virus. Everybody lived by faith. The kids were running around, the teenage girls had tears in their dresses and their shorts and whatever. They were the proudest, happiest people you ever met. And after spending the first week there, I actually made a decision to stay there and not come back. When they offered me this job to manage the children's, the teenage girls' apartment and to work with them, I started to pray with them. And the little babies were like 3 months old, and some of them will be carrying the babies, and we spent time there. And the day that he called me and he offered me this job, and he said to me, they only give you a stipend of 2,000 rand. And you live there and you try to cope, you dedicate your life. And I prayed about it and I said, Lord, but is this what you want for Josh? Because there was no way, if I stayed there, I could travel, I could see the kids, I could do anything else. So I gave my best while I was there and I worked with them. And I said to him that I'm going to go home and I'm going to pray. If you can give me a month, I'm going to pray over this. And if the Lord wants me to come here, He will bring me back here. And I left there. And I tell you, Josh and I had a new kind of appreciation for what we thought we were going through that was difficult. Those kids never get an apple. They never get fruit. They never get meat. They never get things that we take so much for granted for. But they are so happy and there's so much of love. We happened to be there over Heritage Day. And Josh got in with them with the training and they had dances. And the joy that they put into what they are doing is unspeakable. It was the most amazing experience. So I believe the Lord took us there to show us really what the battle is that people go through. And when I came home and I started to pray over this, and everybody, I said to everyone, I said, it's in God's hands now. And 2 weeks later, I got a call from my daughter, and she said to me, Mommy, we're looking for somebody in the division, and I've recommended you if you can update your CV. And the job was more than I could ever have imagined. The pay was more than I ever could have imagined. And within the matter of 2 weeks of coming down from there, the Lord changed my life. And before I was due to move out, Josh and I could move on to a little outbuilding. And most of y'all that are here, or Jan, Pastor Rick, they will bear with us. Andre, that have visited me when I first moved there, and we were so proud of our little room and kitchen, and we had so much of fun there. And we prayed, and from there the Lord started to just move his hand in the most amazing way. I still was praying over Josh at the time, and I was still battling to get him into the school situation, and he was being assessed and all that. And then I was still doing the prayer and counseling for the women at home. And somebody came to me one night, and she really needed help. And she was so hard, so she was crying. And we had one room in a lounge that was very open plan. So Josh woke up and he wouldn't sleep, and he was very, very shocked that there was so much of hurt and coming out, and he started to feel this. And I said, Lord, you need to help me because I want to work with you, but I don't want to expose my child to this. And I walked around the river every morning, and I used to always look at a complex there, and I used to look at this place with the balcony, and I used to think to myself, Lord, if only I could have one of those, I can make it into a prayer room and the front, and it'll be separate. And 3 months later, that place became available. And I thought to myself, I don't have 3 months of bank statement of working, and I'm not going to be able to afford the deposit on this place, and it was like double of what I was paying at the moment and whatever. So my daughter said to me, this landlady of the place is Donita, you can call her. And I call her, she says, no, I don't need anything, the place is yours. She doesn't know me. She doesn't take a deposit. She doesn't ask for any proofs of work or nothing. And I moved into that place by faith. I never got a raise yet. I moved in there by faith, and we lived there. And I lived there for 1 year. And then I got tired of carrying the groceries up the stairs. I got tired and I always wanted to come downstairs, and I prayed about that, and the Lord brought that to pass, and I'm downstairs now, right, with my own garden and things. But in the middle of all that, the prayer that I had for Josh, and he got assessed and he got nominated into a school, and I went to do the interview there. And when I saw that school, there's nothing wrong with people being in wheelchairs and stuff, because it's not something that they can help. But when I looked at Josh, I said, Josh, when you brought Josh to me, you brought him as a gift to me, wholehearted, and I accept that. I'm not going to accept the fact that he's going to need to be in this place. And I prayed over it, and I found a school where he is right now. It's a normal academy. It's just a little bit more private in terms of having a tutor for him. And he, in that school, has come through now with a 95% pass. So in the normal school where he was, he failed. In this community school, he failed and had to repeat a year. And he was made a lot of fun and things like that of, and it was damaging his self-confidence. And I said, and Josh knows he's clever and he's wonderfully made in God's image, and he knows these things. And I'm just so grateful that the Lord knows our heart. He knows all things. And I'm going to end off, sorry if I'm taking too long. The last 2 weeks has been one of the most trying weeks for me, because I had planned, Josh is having a birthday on the 1st of September, and his wish and his dream was to meet his biological sister and his family. For those of you who do not know, Josh's mom passed away when he was 3 months old, but he's been in my care from the 3-day-old baby. So I'm his mom. He's blessed with 2 moms. And so he's always wanted to, because he has a relationship with his sister and with his family on the phone, but he was like 5 years old when I left the South Coast, so he hasn't been there. So I wanted to grant him this for his birthday, and I started to pray about the finance. And once again, the devil tries to be a freaking liar all the time in my life, but he doesn't get that close. So I started to pray about this, and everybody knows about the tax term and the tax return. So I was told that maybe I'm going to get a little bit of money there, not much, maybe about 3,000 rand. And I said, Lord, thank you for that. So I started making plans for this trip. Betty is my neighbor, my friend, my angel, my everything. Every day she hears about these things and what goes on, and she will stand by this. So we've been praying about this trip, and we've been excited. And immediately I got accommodation when I made a few calls because of the church that we were there and the ministry we were in there. We got accommodation at a very good price. First we had it for free, and then I said, no, but I want Josh's sister to come over, and I want the friends to braai and things like that, so I want my own place. And a lady that I worked with there offered me a very good accommodation at a very good price. And I said to myself, Lord, thank you so much. And then, of course, I was all excited, and we did the Women's Day function, and I see I shared with the ladies, and 2 days later, she says, Ross, I'm so sorry, but that accommodation was double booked, so I can't give you that. And then the next day, the lady says to me, you know, I'm sorry about the SARS, but the thing is that it seems that you owe them, they don't owe you. And I said that morning, I sent Pastor Liv a message. I said, the devil is busy trying to make me a liar yet. And I said, and I thought about, Linda, what she said last week. I said, devil, you get thee behind me. I'm not taking this. I am not taking this. I'm not actually accepting both of it. I said, we're going on that trip. I'm going to get my house money and I'm going to get accommodation. Beloved, I tell you, today I stand here and I tell you, I booked accommodation that was better than the one that I got first, because this comes with a swimming pool. And 3 days ago, SARS did pay me my money. And we are making that trip. I hope that you all will be listening.
Lieb said I must spend at least an hour and a half with you guys. It's going to take a bit long. My name is Terence. I'm a double amputee. I don't know if you people have noticed that I walk a bit difficult. But yeah, 2 years ago I lost both of my legs through diabetes. And yeah, person loses your legs, you think it's the end of the world. And sorry. Stupid.
This is real.
Yeah, and I went to Livingston Hospital to have my legs amputated. They amputated 3 toes on the Tuesday, and on the Friday they amputated my legs. And because we were self-employed, you always used to work and be active, so it was very difficult for me to be bound in a wheelchair and let other people work for you and do things for you. But while I was in hospital, I felt this almost like somebody being with me and rubbing my leg. And yeah, there was no pain, no infections. I came out of hospital after 13 days. It was COVID at the time. I couldn't get visitors. It was... Yeah, the Lord showed me that He's there for us, and He was there. Every night we had people coming over to our house, bringing us food. They didn't want us to answer to cook. But my house was laid out for me, for the wheelchair, for me to get into the yard, into the house, into the bathroom. Everything was done for me. My son-in-law and family really went out their way. Friends went out their way to make my life easier. And those are the blessings that the Lord put on our path, that He walked with us all the way. They said I won't walk between 5 and 8 years. I said to her, I showed her a video where I walked to the cross on Mighty Men. And she said, yeah. And she looked at it and she turned around and she walked away. And I proved the point that the Lord is with us all the way, and He carried us through a lot of pain. I had no pain. I had no infections. And they said, yeah, it's going to take a while. I must get used to it. And I said, not while I'm a child of God. It will not happen. And everything that could go wrong went wrong. I fell out of the bakkie. Trying between the wheelchair and the bakkie. I tried to get into the bakkie. The wheelchair moved away. I fell on the ground. I fell on my stompies, my short legs. And yeah, they popped open, went to the doctor, they cleaned it up. And then I met a guy about a year after I had my operation. An awesome guy, because we tried to sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here. We try to create funds for prosthetics because they said, yeah, if we go for our own prosthetics, I can get prosthetics. So after a year, I met this guy, Andre. He said to me, yeah, the prosthetics are going to be plus minus about 120, 150,000 rand. And he came to me afterwards. He's also a hunter and stuff, and he said to me that he is going to do me a favor. He's going to do my legs for me for 85,000 rand. I said, awesome. So we started a fundraiser, and I sold my bakkie, and my friend actually gave us the Uno that we're driving now. He put it on Ansa's name. He done everything for her. And man, it went by about 2 months, 3 months went by. They started toning my legs. Everything was no problems. He said to me, he's not going to charge me 150,000 rand. How much have I got? And I said, I gave him the amount. We've done a fundraiser through Back a Buddy, and friends of ours helped us. And I gave him the amount. He says to me, don't worry about the rest, I'm going to pay it. And that wasn't 5,000 and 10,000 rand, that was a good couple of thousand rand. And I wanted to walk to the cross, and there's the video where I'm walking to the cross at Mighty Men. And God has never left us, and He will never leave us. And if this testimony, I know I'm not going to take long because I'm a bit upset. But the Lord will never ever, doesn't matter what situation you're in. If you can do what I'm doing there, I'm sure you can help a lot of people. And this is going to be a short and sweet leap. I can't 10 minutes wees hoor. Maar guys, there's always a way. If the Lord's with you, as I said, I'm walking today without crutches. I do need assistance where it comes to certain things. But that if you're a child of God and the Lord is with you, you can't go wrong. Okay. Here's a 2-page testimony that's not going to happen today.